So, growing up, one of my absolute favorite animes to watch was Rurouni Kenshin, also known as Samurai X, and I have always fallen in love with the way of the sword. I like the design of katanas, a Japanese longsword, basically anything that has the Japanese aesthetic. Longswords has always been one of my absolute favorites. The Japanese sword design has always fascinated me, and I love how it looks like, how sleek and lethal it can be. Fast forward a few more years, and I discovered Devil May Cry, which introduced Virgil. Virgil is one of my most beloved video game characters. He's a broken character, yes, but he just exudes so much coolness, and his sword Yamato is such an amazing weapon design. It can cut through time and space, and it just looks so cool. So I guess by talking about that, you have an idea of what the next weapon we will be covering for today's episode. Yes, it is the longsword. Welcome back, everybody, to our weapon crash course for Monster Hunter Wilds. This is the open beta, the second wave of it, and I am here to showcase the little brother of the Great Sword. The longsword is one of the easiest weapons to pick up, but hardest to master in the entire franchise. It has always been viewed as the training wheels on training wheels, simply because it has a good amount of range and a decent damage output. However, if you really want to be good at the longsword and be an expert on it, then you have a long way to go, because longswords is all about precise timings and knowing when the monster will attack. The longsword rewards you for doing perfect counterattacks, like well-timed counterattacks that does more damage than its regular combos. Now, before I continue with the basics, one important information about the longsword. For those who are new to the franchise, let me explain a very specific mechanic for the longswords. You see that sword icon below the sharpness meter, the green sharpness meter? It's empty right now, but that is the spirit gauge. Basically, one of the mechanics of the longsword is while you're doing your normal attacks, that spirit gauge fills up. Once it's full, you can do a special attack, which I will show you later, called the Spirit Slash. And once you complete that combo, it will give that sword some sort of colored aura. It starts with white, yellow, and then red. So each level of color denotes additional damage. And new to Monster Hunter Wilds, once you reach the red gauge, there will be some changes on your basic attack combo pattern. Alright, so now that we have covered the spirit gauge, let's go back to the very beginning and continue from there. Okay, so your basic commands are Y for your overhead slash, which is your basic attack, and B, which is the stab. Now for the Y, or your top face button, you can do a full combo like that. Okay, so for the right face button, you do a stab, and then you do a rising slash. So a thrust, rising slash, thrust, rising slash, thrust, rising slash. Alternatively, you could do a mix of thrusts and overheads to chain a combo. Now, similar to the greatsword, you can always roll right after your attacks to do an animation cancel. Another way to dodge while attacking is when you press Y and B, which is the fade slash. It allows you to dodge backwards or sideways to keep you in the action while keeping yourself safe. The next moveset would be the sheath attacks. So after doing a normal attack, you press right trigger and A right after the animation, and it will do a sheathing animation like that. And from there, you can do two things. The first thing is you could do the EI slash, which is that cross slash. Now what the EI slash does is it gives you an automatic spirit gauge generation for a short period of time, your spirit gauge will slowly fill up. So that helps doing that mid combo. As long as you hit one, it will start the spirit gauge generation. The second thing that you could do is the EI Spirit Slash, which is this. Now remember when I told you that the Longsword rewards you for doing perfectly timed counterattacks? That's what the EI Spirit Slash does. So if you time it right, it will do extra damage. So I'm really bad at countering. This is one of the reasons why I never mained the Longsword. But if you time it right when the attack hits you, you will do extra damage. There you go. There you go. So that's how it sounds like when you do it right. Don't ask me how many times I tried to do that in this recording. So when it comes to counter-attacking, there's another counter-attack that is not a special sheet attack. It is called the Foresight Slash, which is what happens if you chain right trigger plus B, or the right face button, right after any attack. So let's try it out here. There you go. That is the perfect one, and it charges your spirit gauge to full when you do it properly. See? There you go. From empty to full. Okay. Now, once your spirit gauge is full, you could do the Spirit Blade attack, which charges up the sword aura that I was talking about earlier. So here we go. Let me show you. It consumes your spirit gauge meter and brings it to the next level colored aura. Now there's a second way to do that without doing the swings, but it's more of a high risk, high reward move, and it's new to Monster Hunter Wilds. If you press and hold the right trigger instead of spamming it, you will do this. That's the Spirit Round Slash. So instead of doing this, you could do this. Instantly puts you to the next level. Now what happens when you have your spirit gauge at maximum, meaning it's on red aura? So the red aura changes your top face basic attacks. It's a different animation with more slashes and faster movements. It is called the Crimson Slash. Additionally, it also changes the Spirit Slash combo towards the end. You can do a follow-up. Once you release the hold button, you can press it again and it will do a spinning Crimson Slash. That goes the same when you do the regular Spirit Blade combo. Alright, so how do you expend your spirit gauge? Now you have two ways of doing that while you have red gauge. So let's fill that up again. There you go. So from here you can do the Spirit Helmbreaker, which is right trigger and Y. So when you press right trigger and Y, it will stab and then kick you up. And while you're mid-air, you press Y to do that downward slash. And it spends the aura that is around your spirit gauge. So let me charge it up again. Because when you have the red gauge, you have this extra animation called Spirit Release Slash. So it's a follow-up from the Helmbreaker. So while you're mid-air, you press Y to do the Helmbreaker, and then right after you do the downward slash, you hit the right trigger to do the follow-up. So let's do that. I'm not sure if it does extra damage when you do it as a counter attack. So another thing that you can do when you have your red gauge is a variation of the foresight slash. Let me try that. That failed incredibly. It's the foresight whirl slash, which not only kicks you backwards, but also does an extra damage when you time it right. See? There you go. Alright, so let's move on to the focus mode of the longsword. So what is the focus attack or the focus strike of the longsword? It is called Unbound Thrust. So let's do it. So you bring up your focus mode by holding left trigger, and then while aiming at the wounded part, like so, you'll see that your reticle will change and will be glowing once you're in range. Tap the right button, and when it connects, it does that. So it destroys that section. Does extra damage. So yeah, let's go ahead and do a fluid combo, and let's see how it looks like. There you go. Flashy, dangerous, and effective. Also, it does severing damage, so if you like cutting off tails of the monsters, this is one of the most effective weapons as well because it has longer reach. So for those monsters who are quite tall, you can still reach their tail with the overhead slash. But yeah, that is the basic of the most basic movesets of the longsword. There are probably more in-depth guides out there, but this video is for those people who just decided to hop on to the Monster Hunter franchise in Monster Hunter Wilds and are currently thinking about what weapons will they choose for their primary and secondary. But yeah, that is it for the longsword. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon to get notifications for the next episode. Hope you were entertained. This has been Riku once again, along with Vivi, and we'll see you in the next weapons crash course. Bye bye.